You really thought I'd come empty-handed? The words left my mouth before the stroller wheels even stopped rolling. 3 curly-haired tornadoes, Miles, Asa, and Judah, tumbled out like they owned the place, juice pouches in hand, dinosaur stickers plastered to their shirts. And just like that, Adrian Cole's perfectly curated baby shower went silent. I watched the champagne flute slip from his fingers. It kissed the pavers with a sound that felt like justice, bright, brittle, final. Here's what I've learned about closure. It's not something someone gives you. It's something you take back. And sometimes you bring receipts. Sometimes those receipts have sticky fingers and call you Mama in stereo. My name is Lynette Williams. I'm 36 years old, and this is the story of how I went from being called broken and a brand risk by the man I married, to standing in his backyard with 3 healthy 3-year-olds who proved that the only thing broken was his narrative. But let me start from the beginning, because this story isn't really about babies. It's about history, receipts, and the kind of closure you earn when you stop making yourself small. If you're here for revenge served cold with a side of toddler chaos, hit that like button. If you've ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault, subscribe, because you're going to want to hear how this ends. And if you've ever walked into a room and rewritten an entire lie just by existing, drop a comment. I see you. Let me start from the beginning. I was 28 when I met Adrian at a leadership breakfast in the hotel conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and ambition. He was 32, polished in that way that passes for substance when you're young enough to mistake packaging for content. Clean lines, good posture, the kind of handshake that said, "I've read the books on handshakes." He liked my plan. I had one, a 5-year roadmap for my consulting practice, color-coded and confidence-backed. He needed my polish. I had that too. What I didn't have was the instinct to ask why a man who talked that much about vision spent so little time looking at the person across from him. We moved fast. Condo with good light. Brunches that felt like additions. Vision boards that matched. And then, because the timeline said so, we started trying for a baby. Months became metrics. I downloaded apps. I took my temperature. I scheduled my life around ovulation windows like they were board meetings. Adrian learned the language of support. He really did. He'd say all the right things. We're in this together, and no pressure, and whatever happens, happens. But support, I learned, can be used like a leash. He scheduled my labs. He asked about my appointments with the kind of concern that felt like surveillance. He'd check in after every doctor's visit, taking notes, nodding like he was compiling a case file. And when I'd ask about his appointments, because conception takes 2, last I checked, he'd wave it off. Already handled it. Everything's perfect on my end. Let's focus on getting you optimized. Getting me optimized. Like I was a software update. 12 months in, the language shifted. We became you. As in, maybe you should try acupuncture. Have you looked into elimination diets? I read that stress affects your egg quality. My stress. My eggs. My body failing the timeline. I didn't see it then. How he was building a narrative where I was the variable and he was the constant. Where my worth was tied to my uterus and his was tied to his patience with my deficiency. 18 months in, we sat across from a fertility specialist who used words like unexplained and continue monitoring. Adrian held my hand in the parking lot and said, "We'll figure this out." But his grip felt like blame. 2 years in, I caught him on the phone with his mother. I wasn't eavesdropping. I was just walking past his office. But his voice carried. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," he said. "It's affecting my work, my mental health. She's obsessed, Mom. And I'm starting to think," he paused. "I'm starting to think it's not going to happen. Not we. It. Like I was a failed investment." That night, over takeout neither of us ate, he said we needed space. Not a separation, he clarified. Just space. To reduce the pressure. To let things happen naturally. "Maybe if you're not so focused on it," he said, cutting his chicken into identical squares, "your body will relax." My body. Again. I said okay because I didn't know what else to say. Because by then, I'd started to believe him. Started to believe that maybe I was the problem. That maybe my type A personality was somehow murdering embryos before they could implant. That maybe if I just tried less, wanted less, needed less, my body would cooperate. The space lasted 6 weeks. Turns out, space had a name, Diana. 28 years old. Junior analyst in his division. The kind of young that still believes ambitious men are impressive instead of exhausting. I didn't find out from him. I found out from a friend who saw them at a wine bar, his hand on the small of her back in that proprietary way that said this wasn't the first time. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He reframed it. I needed someone who didn't make me feel like a failure, he said. Someone who didn't turn every conversation into a referendum on my performance. My jaw literally dropped. You're the one who made it about performance. You're the one who turned our marriage into a fertility science project. Because you couldn't let it go, he said. His voice was calm, reasonable, like he was explaining basic economics to someone who just didn't get math. You made everything about getting pregnant. I felt like a sperm donor in my own marriage. I stared at him, at this man I'd built a life with. This man who'd scheduled my ovulation like business trips, and then blamed me for making it transactional. I want a divorce, I said. He looked almost relieved. I think that's best. For both of us. 3 months later, the papers were signed. 6 months after that, Adrian and Diana were married. The engagement photos looked like a J.Crew ad. All natural light and effortless joy. Like he'd been holding his breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. I deleted social media, muted group chats, built a life in the margins where his name didn't reach. I went to therapy, the kind where you don't perform wellness. You actually do the work. I learned that being driven and being obsessed aren't the same thing. I learned that my worth wasn't tied to my reproductive system. I learned that I'd spent years making myself small enough to fit inside someone else's narrative. I stopped doing that. I threw myself into my consulting practice, not as an escape, but as a reclamation. I took on projects that mattered. I built a team. I made money that was mine, not ours. And then I met Jonah. He was a pediatric anesthesiologist with kind eyes and hands that moved like he had all the time in the world. We met at a friend's barbecue, and he didn't ask about my 5-year plan. He asked what I was reading. He asked if I'd tried the potato salad. He asked if I wanted to walk to the park because the sunset was doing something interesting. He didn't need my polish. He liked my weird. We dated for 8 months before I told him about Adrian, about the trying and the failing and the divorce that came wrapped in blame. Jonah listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. When I finished, he said, "That sounds lonely." Not "that sounds hard." Lonely. And something in my chest cracked open. We got married under string lights in his sister's backyard. Small. Simple. No vision boards. Just vows that meant something. A year later, I missed my period. I didn't tell Jonah right away. I didn't want to make it a thing. I took a test alone in the bathroom at 6 a.m, hands shaking, bracing for the white space that had always greeted me before. 2 pink lines stared back. I took 4 more tests. All positive. When I finally told Jonah, he cried. Not sad crying, happy crying. The kind that makes you laugh because it's so pure. "We're having a baby," he whispered, hands framing my face. "We're having 3 babies," the ultrasound tech said 6 weeks later, pointing at the screen where 3 tiny heartbeats flickered like Morse code. Triplets. Spontaneous. Natural. No intervention. No apps. No pressure. Just biology doing what it does when you're not trying to control it. The pregnancy was textbook. The delivery was chaos. Good chaos. Miles came first, screaming his announcement. Asa came second, already skeptical. Judah came last, fashionably late, and hasn't stopped moving since. They're 3 now. They say truck, like it's a prayer. They think naps are a suggestion. They negotiate snacks like union reps and love so loudly you can hear it in the next room. And for 3 years, I've lived in the piece of a life Adrian knows nothing about. Until 2 weeks ago, when the invitation arrived. Cream cardstock. Sage green calligraphy. You're invited to celebrate baby Cole. My first instinct was to laugh. My second was to RSVP no. My third, after I saw the personal note scrawled on the back in Adrian's handwriting, was to say yes. The note said, "I'd love for you to be there, Lynette. I think it would bring closure for both of us." Closure. Like he was offering me a gift. Like showing up to watch him celebrate the family he built with someone else was supposed to heal me. I showed Jonah the invitation. He read it twice, then looked up. "What do you want to do?" Not "you shouldn't go." Not "that's manipulative." Just, "What do you want?" "I want to go," I said. And then, because I'm petty and human and done being quiet. "And I want to bring receipts." Jonah smiled. "I'll get the stroller." So here I was, watching Adrian's face drain of color as 3 toddlers turned his tastefully curated baby shower into a playground. Watching his perfect narrative crack like that champagne flute. Because closure wasn't something he gets to script. Let me back up to the beginning of the beginning, because you need to understand who I was before Adrian, to understand who I became during him, and who I am now standing in his backyard with 3 children he never thought I could have. I grew up in a house where love was loud and expectations were clear. My parents were both educators. Dad taught high school history. Mom ran the library at the elementary school. They raised me and my brother on teacher salaries, which meant we were rich in books and poor in brand names. I learned early that your worth came from what you built, not what you bought. I was the kid with the planner, the one who color-coded her notes and finished projects early. Not because I was afraid of failure, because I genuinely loved the feeling of things falling into place. Order made sense to me. Chaos didn't. By 25, I'd built a consulting practice from my studio apartment and a dream. I helped small businesses optimize their operations, systems, workflows, efficiency. I was good at seeing where things were broken and fixing them before they collapsed completely. That's probably why I didn't see my own life breaking. When I met Adrian at that leadership breakfast, I was 28 and hungry for the next level. Not just professionally, personally. I wanted partnership. I wanted someone who matched my energy, my vision, my drive. Adrian seemed like he did. He worked in corporate strategy for a tech firm downtown. He wore watches that whispered wealth instead of shouting it. He talked about disruption and scalability and market positioning like he was conducting a symphony. When he looked at my business plan, he didn't just nod. He asked questions that made me think harder. "What's your exit strategy?" he asked over our 3rd coffee date. "I don't want to exit," I said. "I want to build something that lasts." He smiled. "I like that. Sustainability over flash." I thought we were building the same thing. Our courtship felt efficient. In a good way, I thought. We didn't waste time on games or mixed signals. By date 5, we were calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. By month 3, he'd given me a drawer at his place. By month 6, I'd given him a key to mine. We moved in together after 10 months. His condo because it was bigger and closer to both our jobs. 2 bedrooms, open concept, balcony with a view of the downtown skyline. It felt like an upgrade in every way. "We're building something," he'd say, standing on that balcony with his arm around my waist. "This is just the beginning." I believed him. His parents liked me. His mother, Patricia, was a retired real estate agent with opinions about everything from table settings to career trajectories. His father, Robert, was a semi-retired financial advisor who spent more time on the golf course than in the office. At our first family dinner, Patricia looked at me like I was a business proposal she was evaluating. "So you run your own consulting firm," she said, not quite a question. "I do," I said. "Started it 3 years ago. We're small but growing." "How nice," she said in a tone that meant the opposite. Then, turning to Adrian, "And when do you think you two will start thinking about the next step?" Adrian laughed it off. "We just moved in together, Mom." But 2 months later, he proposed. It was thoughtful, I'll give him that. He took me to the botanical gardens, where we'd had our second date. Got down on one knee by the rose arbor. The ring was simple, elegant. A solitaire that caught the light without begging for attention. "I want to build a life with you," he said. "A real one. Family, future, everything." I said yes because I wanted the same thing. The wedding was 8 months later. Mid-sized, tasteful. The kind of event that balanced both families' expectations without bankrupting anyone. My parents flew in friends from across the state. Patricia invited people whose names sounded like law firms. We honeymooned in Costa Rica. Zip lining, beach days, seafood that tasted like the ocean had just handed it to us. On our last night, lying in bed with the windows open and the sound of waves in the background, Adrian said, "I think we should start trying when we get back." "Trying?" I asked, even though I knew. "For a baby," he said. "I mean, if you want to. I know your business is growing, but..." "I want to," I said. And I did. I'd always seen kids in my future. I just hadn't expected them to be on the agenda quite so soon. But Adrian was 32. I was 28. We were married, stable, in love. Why wait? So we started trying. Month 1 was fun. Exciting. We were playing house in the best way. Imagining nurseries and baby names and whose eyes they'd have. Month 2 was still hopeful. We'd read that it takes couples an average of 6 months to conceive. We were normal. We were fine. Month 3, Adrian bought me prenatal vitamins. Just to get your body ready, he said. Month 4, he suggested I download an ovulation app, so we can time things better. Month 5, he started asking if I'd talk to my doctor, just to make sure everything's okay. Month 6, I scheduled my first fertility workup. The doctor was kind, methodical. She took my history, ran blood work, scheduled an ultrasound. Everything looks normal, she said after the results came back. Your hormone levels are good. Your ovarian reserve is healthy. I'd suggest we keep monitoring, and if nothing happens in another 6 months, we can look at next steps. I felt relieved and frustrated at the same time. Relieved that nothing was wrong. Frustrated that nothing was happening. When I told Adrian, he hugged me. That's great news. See, your body's fine. It'll happen. Did you schedule your appointment? I asked. What appointment? With the urologist. For your workup. He pulled back slightly. They usually start with the woman first. That's standard. I know, but we've been trying for 6 months. And since everything came back normal for me, let's give it a little more time, he said. No point in both of us going through all that if it's not necessary. It made sense at the time. Or I let it make sense. Month 7, I started tracking everything. Basal body temperature. Cervical mucus. Ovulation strips. I had spreadsheets. I had charts. I had data that should have made conception a mathematical certainty. Month 8, Adrian started traveling more for work. Big project, he explained. I'll be back before your fertile window closes, don't worry. But he wasn't always. Or he was tired. Or the timing was just slightly off. Month 9, I mentioned it to him. Maybe if you were home more during my peak days. I can't control when my company needs me, he said. Not defensive. Just factual. I'm doing my best to be here, but I also have to provide for this family. For the family we're trying to build. I felt guilty for bringing it up. Month 10, we had our first real fight about it. I'd made a special dinner. Lit candles. Wore the lingerie he bought me for my birthday. It was day 14 of my cycle. Peak fertility according to every app, every chart, every possible metric. He came home at 9:30. I'm so sorry, he said, loosening his tie. Client dinner ran late. I couldn't leave early. You said you'd be home by 7. I know. I tried. But this deal is huge for the firm, and it's the 3rd time this month, Adrian. I know. He sat down heavily. But I can't just walk out of meetings because... He stopped himself. Because what? Because of ovulation schedules, he finished quietly. The words hung there. You're the one who wanted to start trying, I said. I know, and I do want this. But I also can't structure my entire career around your fertility app. Your fertility app. Not ours. Mine. We didn't have sex that night. Month 11, I went back to the doctor. Still nothing, I said. And my husband, he's traveling a lot. The timing isn't always lining up. She nodded. Timing is important. Have you considered having him come in for a workup? Just to get a full picture. I've mentioned it. He keeps saying that they test women first, she finished. That's true initially, but at this point, with your results being normal, it would be good to check both sides. Male factor is involved in about 40% of infertility cases. 40%. That night, I told Adrian what the doctor said. She really thinks you should get tested. Just to rule things out. Fine, he said. I'll schedule something. Month 12, I followed up. Did you make your appointment? I'm working on it. My schedule's been insane. Adrian, it's been 4 weeks. I know. I'll do it this week. He didn't. Month 13, I stopped asking. I tracked my cycles. I took my vitamins. I did everything the apps and the doctors and the internet told me to do. And every month, I sat on the bathroom floor staring at another negative test, wondering what was broken inside me. Adrian would find me there sometimes. He'd sit beside me, put his arm around my shoulders, say all the right things. It's okay. We'll keep trying. It'll happen when it's meant to happen. But his eyes always looked somewhere else. Month 15, we went to a barbecue at his friend Marcus's house. Marcus and his wife had just announced they were expecting their second child. The wife was glowing, hand on her small bump, talking about nursery themes and baby names. On the drive home, Adrian was quiet. You okay? I asked. Yeah, just, he sighed. Do you ever feel like we're doing something wrong? What do you mean? Like, Everyone around us gets pregnant without even trying. And we've been trying for over a year and nothing. Maybe, he paused. Maybe we're forcing something that's not supposed to happen. The words landed like a punch. You think we should stop trying? I asked carefully. No. I don't know. I wonder sometimes if all this pressure is making it harder. I'm not trying to pressure anyone. I know you're not trying to, he said. But it's there. The apps, the schedules, the disappointment every month. It's a lot. I stared out the window. What do you want me to do? Just stop caring? No. But maybe stop tracking everything so intensely. Maybe just let it happen naturally. We tried that for 6 months before I started tracking, I said. Nothing happened naturally. Because you were stressed about it. I wasn't stressed until it didn't happen. We drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, lying in bed with a careful foot of space between us, I realized something. He'd turned my wanting into a character flaw, my hope into pathology, my trying into the reason we were failing. And I'd started to believe him. Month 17, Patricia called. Lynette, honey, I wanted to check in. Adrian mentioned you two have been having some trouble. I closed my eyes. We've been trying for a while. It just hasn't happened yet. Have you seen a doctor? Yes. My tests came back normal. That's wonderful. She sounded genuinely relieved. Then, and Adrian's been tested too? I hesitated. He's planning to. Planning to, she repeated. Lynette, I don't want to overstep, but my son can be stubborn about these things. His father was the same way. Very proud. Very. She paused, choosing words. Men don't like feeling like they're the problem. I'm not trying to make him feel like anything, I said. I just want answers. I know, sweetheart. Just be patient with him. He's under a lot of stress at work. Everyone was always under stress except me. My stress was optional. My stress was the problem. Month 18. Adrian mentioned Diana for the first time. We brought on a new analyst, he said over dinner. Really sharp. Great instincts. That's good. Yeah, she's hungry, you know? Reminds me of. He stopped. Of what? Of how I used to be, he said. Before everything became so complicated. I didn't ask what he meant by complicated. I already knew. Month 20, I suggested couples counseling. For what? He asked. For us. To help us navigate this. Navigate what? We're fine. We're not fine, Adrian. We barely talk anymore. We haven't had sex in 6 weeks, unless it's on the calendar. You're working late every night. Because I'm building a future for us, he said, voice rising. Someone has to actually focus on the things that matter. And getting pregnant doesn't matter? It matters. But it's not the only thing that matters. And honestly, Lynette, sometimes I feel like it's the only thing you care about. The accusation sat between us like a third person at the table. That's not fair, I said quietly. Isn't it? He stood up, taking his plate to the sink. When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about ovulation or doctor appointments or what I need to do to make this happen? When's the last time you asked about my day? My work? My life outside of being your... He stopped himself. My what? I asked. He didn't finish the sentence. He left the kitchen. That night, I lay awake wondering when I'd become someone even I wouldn't want to live with. Month 21, Adrian asked for space. We were sitting on the couch. Same couch where we'd planned our wedding, our future, our everything. I think we need to take a break from trying, he said. Okay, we can take a break. No, I think I need space. From this. From the pressure. I can't, he rubbed his face. I feel like I'm suffocating. What are you saying? I'm saying I need some time apart. Not a separation. Just space. To breathe. How much space? I don't know. A few weeks. Maybe a month. I'll stay at my buddy's place. And maybe if we're not around each other constantly, if you're not monitoring everything, things will just happen. Naturally. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to ask how me leaving would make me magically pregnant. But instead I said, okay. Because by then, I'd learned that my wanting was the problem. My presence was pressure. My existence was the obstacle between him and peace. He packed a bag that night. At the door, he hugged me. This is for us, he said. To save us. I nodded against his chest. He left. I stood in our condo, his condo, and felt the space he'd wanted. It felt like abandonment dressed up as self-care. 3 weeks later, my friend Jennifer called. I don't want to be the one to tell you this, she said. But I saw Adrian last night. Okay. He was at Meridian, the wine bar on 5th. Okay. Lynette, he wasn't alone. He was with a young woman. And it didn't look like a work thing. My chest felt hollow. What did she look like? Petite. Long dark hair. Mid-20s maybe. They were sitting close. His hand was on her back. And when they left together. I thanked her. Hung up. Sat on the bathroom floor where I'd sat so many times staring at negative tests. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't cry about not being pregnant. I cried because I'd finally seen the truth I'd been too busy optimizing to notice. The problem was never my body. The problem was him. I confronted him the next morning. He came back to the condo to grab more clothes, and I was waiting. Not with tears. Not with hysteria. Just waiting with a single question. Who is she? Adrian froze, his hand on the closet door. For 3 seconds, he considered lying. I could see it in his face. The calculation. The weighing of options. Then he chose truth. Or his version of it. Her name is Diana, he said. She works in my department. How long? It's not what you think. How long, Adrian? He sat on the edge of the bed. Our bed. The one we'd picked out together. The one where we'd tried and failed and tried again to make a baby that would fix whatever was breaking between us. 6 weeks, he said. But nothing physical happened until after I asked for space. I swear. 6 weeks. Which meant it started a month before he asked to leave. Which meant the space wasn't about pressure or breathing room. It was about making room for someone else. Does she know? I asked. About me. She knows I'm married. She knows we're struggling. Struggling, I repeated. Is that what you told her? That we're struggling? We are struggling, Lynette. Because you're sleeping with someone else. I haven't slept with her, he said. Then quieter. Yet. The honesty was somehow worse than a lie. But you're going to, I said. He looked at his hands. I don't know. Maybe. She makes me feel. He stopped. Feel what? Light, he said finally. Like I can breathe. Like I'm not failing at something every single day. I sat down on the opposite end of the bed. A canyon of white duvet between us. You think you're failing, I said slowly, because we can't get pregnant. And you think that's my fault. So you found someone who makes you feel successful just by existing. Someone who doesn't need anything from you except attention. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed. It sounded hollow. You asked for space to work on our marriage. But really, you wanted space to start a new relationship without technically cheating. And somehow, I'm the one who's not being fair. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Then help me understand, I said. Explain to me how you've been under so much pressure that you couldn't schedule a single doctor's appointment in 2 years. Explain how you've been so stressed that you've missed every fertile window for 6 months straight. Explain how you've been suffering so much that you had time to start an emotional affair, but not time to have an honest conversation with your wife. He stared at me. You've never understood what it's like for me. You're right, I said. I don't understand what it's like to blame someone else for something you won't even get tested for. His jaw tightened. I was going to schedule it. When? After Diana gets pregnant. The words came out sharper than I meant them, but they landed exactly where they needed to. Adrian stood up. This is exactly why I need space. You turn everything into an attack. I turn everything. I stopped. Took a breath. Get out. Lynette. Get out of my house. It's my house, he said quietly. My name is on the lease. And there it was. The trump card. The reminder that even the space I lived in wasn't really mine. Then I'll leave, I said. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I stood up. I need space too. Real space. Not the kind where you're texting another woman while I'm sleeping in the next room. Not the kind where I'm making myself smaller and quieter and less needy while you decide if I'm worth keeping. That's not what this is. That's exactly what this is, I said. You've spent 2 years making me believe I'm broken. That my body is failing, that my wanting is pathological. And I believed you. I made myself less. I apologized for needing things. I turned myself into the kind of wife who wouldn't be too much trouble. And it still wasn't enough. I never asked you to do that. You didn't have to ask, I said. You just had to keep blaming me every time something didn't go according to your plan. He grabbed his jacket. I'll give you a few days to cool off. Then we can talk about this like adults. Don't bother, I said. I'll have my lawyer call yours. He stopped at the door. You want a divorce? I want to stop living in a marriage where I'm the problem that needs solving. Lynette, come on. We can work through this. How? I asked. By pretending you're not in love with someone else? By going to more doctors so they can confirm what we already know, that there's nothing wrong with me? By spending another year watching you resent me for wanting the family you promised? I don't resent you. Yes, you do, I said quietly. You resent me for being the person who shows you what you're not capable of giving. He left without another word. I sat on the floor of the bedroom for an hour. Not crying, not falling apart, just sitting in the truth of what had just happened. Then I called Jennifer. Can I stay with you for a few days? Absolutely. How many days are we talking? However long it takes to find a lawyer and a new place. Oh, thank God, she said. I'll open the wine. I packed a bag. Essentials only: clothes, laptop, my business files. I left the prenatal vitamins on the bathroom counter. Left the ovulation apps on my phone, but deleted all the data. Left the vision boards and the baby name lists and the fantasy of who we were supposed to become. I left the woman who'd made herself small. 3 days later, I met with a lawyer. Her name was Patricia. Different Patricia, thank God. And she had the kind of tired eyes that said she'd seen this story before. No kids? She asked. No. Property. His name's on the lease. Everything else is pretty separate. Retirement accounts, joint assets. We kept most things separate. I have my business. He has his salary. She nodded. This should be relatively straightforward. Oregon's a no-fault state, so we don't need to prove anything except irreconcilable differences. He's having an affair, I said. Does that matter? Not legally, but it might matter for negotiating terms. She looked up from her notes. Do you want it to matter? I thought about it. Thought about standing in a courtroom or a mediation room, listing all the ways Adrian had failed me, all the ways he'd chosen someone else, all the evidence of his betrayal. No, I said finally. I just want out. Smart, she said. The fastest way through is straight through. We filed the next week. Adrian called 2 days after he was served. Really, he said. You're really doing this? Yes. Over one mistake. It's not one mistake, Adrian. It's 2 years of mistakes. And I'm tired. What about counseling? What about trying to save this? You didn't want to save it, I said. You wanted space to figure out if Diana was a better option. Well, now you have all the space you need. She doesn't mean anything. Stop, I said. Just stop. I don't need you to minimize her to make me feel better. I don't need you to convince me I'm overreacting. I just need you to sign the papers. Lynette. I hung up. He called back. I didn't answer. He texted. Can we please talk about this like adults? I replied. Talk to my lawyer. He texted. I love you. I deleted the message and blocked his number. The divorce took 4 months. Quick by most standards. We had a mediation session where Adrian's lawyer tried to argue that I should contribute to his moving costs since I was the one who initiated the separation. My lawyer shut that down in under 30 seconds. Your client initiated the separation when he started an extramarital relationship, she said calmly. My client simply formalized it. Adrian's face went red, but he signed. We split the security deposit on the condo. I kept my business. He kept his retirement account. We both kept our cars. Clean break. At the final signing, Adrian looked at me across the table. I really did love you, he said. I know, I said. You just loved yourself more. The lawyer notarized the papers. We stood. We didn't shake hands. In the parking lot, Adrian called after me. Lynette, wait. I stopped. He walked over, hands in his pockets. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About how it ended. About Diana. About everything. Okay, I said. Do you forgive me? I looked at him. This man who'd convinced me my body was broken. Who'd made my hope feel like a character flaw. Who'd built an exit strategy while I was still trying to save the marriage. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I'm working on it. He nodded. I hope you get everything you want. I hope you do too, I said. And I meant it. Not because I was noble, but because I finally understood that what he wanted had nothing to do with me. I drove away from that courthouse a divorced woman, 30 years old. No kids. No husband. No plan. For the first time in my life, I had no idea what came next. And it felt like freedom. I threw myself into rebuilding. Not the frantic kind of rebuilding where you're running from pain. The intentional kind where you're running towards something better. I found a therapist. A good one. The kind who didn't just let me vent. She made me look at patterns. What role did you play in the marriage? She asked during our third session. I was the problem, I said automatically. That's Adrian's narrative. What's yours? I thought about it. I made myself small. I apologized for needing things. I accepted blame for things that weren't my fault. Why? Because I thought if I was easy enough, good enough, undemanding enough, he'd stay. And did he? No. So the strategy didn't work, she said gently. What if you tried a different one? Over 6 months, I learned to take up space again, to ask for what I needed without apologizing, to recognize that someone else's discomfort with my needs wasn't my responsibility to manage. I rebuilt my business, took on bigger clients, hired an assistant, raised my rates, made more money in 1 year than Adrian and I had made combined. I started saying no to things that didn't serve me. No to family events where people asked about my divorce with pity in their eyes. No to friends who wanted to set me up because you're not getting any younger. No to the narrative that my worth was tied to my relationship status. I started saying yes to things that scared me. Yes to the speaking engagement, even though public speaking made my hands shake. Yes to the girls' trip to Mexico, even though I'd never traveled without a plan. Yes to my life exactly as it was, not as a waiting room for something better. And then I met Jonah. It was at Jennifer's barbecue. I almost didn't go. I was tired. My business was in the middle of a big project, and I didn't want to make small talk with strangers. But Jennifer had been there through the divorce, through the crying at 3 a.m, through the days when I couldn't get out of bed, through the moments when I wanted to text Adrian and ask if he ever really loved me. So I went. Jonah was standing by the grill, talking to Jennifer's husband about something that made them both laugh. He was tall, with warm brown skin, and the kind of smile that looked like it lived on his face full time. That's Jonah, Jennifer said, appearing beside me with a plate of chips. He's a pediatric anesthesiologist at County. Went to med school with Dave. Single. Very single. Aggressively single, actually, according to Dave. I'm not looking, I said. I know. That's why I'm telling you. She grinned. No pressure. Just information. I rolled my eyes. An hour later, I was getting a soda from the cooler when Jonah appeared beside me. You're Lynette, right? He said. Jennifer's friend? That's me. You're Jonah. Guilty. He grabbed a beer. Fair warning. Jennifer's been trying to introduce us all night. I figured I'd save us both the awkward setup and just say hi. I laughed. Appreciated. So what do you do when you're not being set up at barbecues? I run a consulting firm. Operations optimization. That sounds either really boring or really interesting, and I can't tell which. Depends on how you feel about spreadsheets. Depends on how you feel about putting small children to sleep for a living. That's your sales pitch for anesthesiology? I'm working on it, he said. Mostly I tell people I make sure kids don't remember the scary parts. Something in my chest loosened. We talked for 2 hours. About work, about Portland, about the terrible parking situation downtown. We didn't talk about relationships or exes or baggage. We just talked. When the sun started setting, Jonah said, I know Jennifer's probably already planning our wedding in her head, but would you want to get coffee sometime? As 2 people who enjoy spreadsheets and not scary medical procedures. I don't enjoy spreadsheets, I said. I respect them. Even better. He pulled out his phone. What's your number? I gave it to him. He texted me that night. This is Jonah from the barbecue. Still interested in that coffee, or was it the beer talking? I replied. I don't drink beer. Coffee sounds good. We met 3 days later at a cafe near my office. Talked for 4 hours. He asked about my business, real questions, not polite ones. I asked about his work, not just the job, but why he chose it. I don't like the idea of kids being scared, he said simply. If I can take that away for even a little while, it feels worth it. We dated for 8 months before I told him about Adrian. About the marriage, the trying, the fertility nightmare, the divorce. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, That sounds lonely. Not that sounds hard, or I'm sorry, or any of the things people usually say. Just, that sounds lonely. It was, I said. Are you still lonely? I looked at him. At this man who asked real questions and listened to real answers. Who didn't need me to be smaller or easier or less complicated. No, I said. Not anymore. He reached across the table and took my hand. We got married 14 months after we met. Small ceremony in his sister's backyard. string lights and good food, and people who actually cared about us. No vision boards. No performance. Just vows that meant something. On our wedding night, lying in bed at the hotel, Jonah said, "I know we haven't talked about kids yet." My stomach tightened. "We don't have to." "I want to," he said. "I want you to know that if it happens, great. If it doesn't, also great. I married you, not a potential family. You're the person I want. Everything else is just details." I started crying. The good kind. "I don't know if I can," I said. "I spent 2 years trying with Adrian and nothing happened. And the doctors never found anything wrong, but maybe. Then maybe it wasn't about your body," Jonah said quietly. "Maybe it was about the situation, the stress, the relationship, or maybe it just wasn't the right time. Or maybe I can't have kids. Then we'll figure it out," he said. "Together. Without blame. Without shame. Just together." I kissed him. "No pressure," he said. "No apps. No schedules. Just us." "Just us," I agreed. A year later, I missed my period. I didn't tell Jonah immediately. Old habits. Old fears. I took a test alone in the bathroom at 6 in the morning, hands shaking, bracing myself for another negative. 2 pink lines stared back at me. I took 3 more tests. All positive. When I finally told Jonah, he pulled me into his arms and cried against my hair. "We're having a baby," he whispered. 6 weeks later, the ultrasound tech said, "We're having 3 babies. 3 heartbeats. 3 tiny beings who decided to exist despite everything I'd been told about my body, my worth, my ability to create life. Triplets," I breathed. Jonah laughed. Then cried. Then laughed again. "We're going to need a bigger place," he said. The pregnancy was textbook. No complications. No scares. My body did exactly what it was supposed to do, exactly when it was supposed to do it. Miles, Asa, and Judah arrived at 36 weeks. Healthy. Perfect. Loud. For 3 years, I lived in the peace of a life Adrian knew nothing about. I posted nothing on social media. I stayed out of mutual friend circles. I built my family in privacy and joy and the kind of ordinary happiness that doesn't need an audience. Until the invitation arrived. Cream cardstock. Sage green calligraphy. Adrian's handwriting on the back. "I'd love for you to be there, Lynette. I think it would bring closure for both of us." I showed Jonah. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to go," I said. "And I want to bring receipts." Because closure wasn't something Adrian got to script. It was something I got to rewrite. The invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it properly. Not because I was afraid, because I wanted to be sure. Jonah watched me turn it over in my hands on the 3rd evening. The triplets were finally asleep after a marathon bedtime routine that involved 2-story negotiations, 1 water refill demand, and Judah's insistence that dinosaurs don't actually sleep. They just rest their eyes. "You don't have to go," Jonah said quietly. "I know. You don't have to prove anything to him. I know that too. So why are you considering it?" I looked at the invitation, at Adrian's handwriting, at the word closure that he'd underlined twice. "Because he invited me thinking I'd be empty-handed," I said. "He invited me thinking I'd show up broken. A cautionary tale. The woman who couldn't give him what he wanted. And I want him to see what actually happened after he left. Which is that I wasn't the problem," I said simply. "And I have 3 pieces of evidence sleeping down the hall." Jonah smiled. "When you put it that way. Plus," I said, "I have receipts. Actual receipts. The insurance letter, and the medical records, and the timeline that shows exactly when he was supposed to be at appointments he never made. You've been holding on to those for 3 years?" "No," I said. "I've been holding on to those for me. For the days when I needed to remember that I wasn't crazy, that it wasn't my fault. But now," I tapped the invitation. "Now they serve a different purpose." "Which is?" "Correction," I said. "He's been telling a story about me for 3 years. To Diana, to his family, to everyone who asked why we got divorced. And I guarantee that story makes me the problem. The broken one. The obsessed one. The one who couldn't let go. And you want to correct the record." "I want to tell the truth," I said, "in front of witnesses. So that Diana knows what she's actually married to. So that his family knows what actually happened. So that no one else gets blamed for his failures." Jonah was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're not going for revenge." "No, you're going for justice." "I'm going for clarity," I said. Revenge would be showing up and making a scene. Justice would be exposing him to hurt him. Clarity is just showing up and existing, letting the facts speak for themselves. And if he gets hurt by the facts, that's not my responsibility, I said. I'm done managing his feelings. I RSVP'd the next morning. One word. Yes. Adrian texted within an hour. I'd unblocked his number months after the divorce. Once I was sure I wouldn't be tempted to respond to anything he sent. His messages had been sparse over the years. A happy birthday here, a hope you're well there. I never responded. But this text was different. So glad you can make it. Diana's really excited to meet you. She's heard so much about you. I stared at that message for a full minute. She's heard so much about you. I wondered what version of me Diana knew. The obsessed wife? The broken woman? The one who made Adrian feel like a failure? I didn't respond. 2 days later, another text. Just wanted to make sure you got the address. It's at our place. We bought a house last year. You'll love it. Our place. The casual possessiveness of it. The assumption that I'd care about his real estate choices. Still didn't respond. A week before the shower, Patricia called. Lynette, sweetheart, it's so good to hear you're coming to the shower. I hadn't spoken to Adrian's mother since the divorce. She'd sent a card when the papers were finalized. Something generic about wishing me well. But we'd had no contact beyond that. Hi, Patricia. I just wanted to reach out personally, she said. I know this might be awkward for you, but I think it's wonderful that you and Adrian can be adults about this. So many divorced couples hold grudges. Hom. And Diana is just lovely. You'll adore her. She's young, of course, but very mature for her age. And she's been so good for Adrian. He's really thrived since, she caught herself. Well, he seems happy. That's good. And I understand congratulations are in order for you as well? Adrian mentioned you've remarried. My jaw tightened. Adrian had been keeping tabs. Checking my social media, probably. Or asking mutual friends. Keeping track of whether I'd moved on. I have, I said. Anyone I know? I don't think so. Well, I'm so glad you found happiness, she said in that tone that meant she was glad I'd found something, so she didn't have to feel guilty. Adrian was worried you'd be upset about the baby. But it sounds like you're in a good place. I am. Wonderful. Well, we'll see you Saturday. Oh, and Lynette? It's a casual affair. Backyard barbecue type thing. So no need to dress up. The implication was clear. Don't try too hard. Don't compete. Know your place. Thanks for the heads up, I said. After I hung up, Jonah found me staring at my phone. His mother, he guessed. Telling me to dress casual. Making sure I know Diana is lovely and Adrian is thriving, and I should be grateful he's letting me attend. You don't have to go. I really do, I said. Because if I don't, the story becomes Lynette was too bitter to face us. If I do, the story becomes whatever I make it. What story do you want to tell? The true one, I said. The night before the shower, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety. From anticipation. I lay in bed next to Jonah, listening to the house settle, and thought about the last time I'd seen Adrian. In that parking lot. Him apologizing. Me saying I didn't know if I could forgive him. 3 years later, I had an answer. I could forgive him for the affair. For the lying. For the divorce. Those were his choices, his failures, his consequences. But I couldn't forgive him for making me believe I was broken. For 2 years, he'd let me think my body was the problem. Let me carry the weight of failure while he skipped appointments and blamed stress. Let me shrink myself trying to be easier, better, less demanding. And then he'd moved on and gotten Diana pregnant within 2 years. The math told a story. And it wasn't the story he'd been telling. I got up quietly, went to my office, and pulled out the folder I'd assembled 3 years ago and never needed. Until now. Inside, my medical records from the fertility specialist. All tests normal. Hormone levels healthy. Ovarian reserve strong. The note at the bottom of the last report. No female factor identified. Recommend male partner evaluation. Underneath that, a printout of Adrian's appointment history from the fertility clinic. Or rather, his lack of appointments. 3 scheduled. 0 attended. 2 no-shows. 1 canceled the morning of. And at the bottom, the insurance letter that had been forwarded to me by mistake 6 months after our divorce. From a urology clinic. Subject line. Follow-up required, abnormal semen analysis. Dated 8 months before Adrian asked for space. 6 months before he told his mother my tests came back fine, but mine were the issue. I'd called the clinic when I first got the letter, thinking it was a mistake. The receptionist had been apologetic but clear. "We can't discuss patient details, but I can confirm this letter was sent to Adrian Cole at this address regarding test results from March 2019. March 2019. 3 months into our marriage. Right when we'd started trying. He'd known. He'd known there was a problem on his end, and he'd hidden it. Let me believe I was the broken one. Let me take the blame, the shame, the weight of our failure." I closed the folder. Tomorrow, that story got corrected. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of weather that made people believe in fresh starts. Clear sky, warm sun, light breeze. The universe's idea of irony. The triplets were in rare form. Miles insisted on wearing his Superman cape. Asa demanded her sparkly shoes that were currently missing. Judah announced he was only answering to King Judah for the day. "This is perfect," Jonah said, wrangling Asa into the car seat. "We're showing up with maximum chaos energy. We're showing up with reality," I said, buckling Miles in. "This is what kids actually look like. As opposed to whatever Pinterest fantasy Adrian thinks he's about to live." The drive took 20 minutes. I'd mapped it earlier in the week, noting the route, the parking situation, the exit strategy. Old habits. "You're very calm," Jonah observed. "I'm very clear," I said. "There's a difference. What if he tries to make you look bad?" "He can't," I said simply. "I have proof. And 3 kids who prove the proof. What if Diana's nice? Then I'll be nice back," I said. "This isn't about her. She's just living in the story he told her. She deserves to know the truth too." We pulled onto Adrian's street at exactly 2 o'clock. The invitation had said 1:30, but I wasn't arriving early. I was arriving exactly when I meant to. The house was exactly what I expected. Craftsman style. Great bones. Probably cost more than Adrian could comfortably afford, but looked impressive from the street. The front yard was magazine-ready, professional landscaping, coordinated planters, a doormat that said, "Welcome to our happy place." I parallel parked across the street. Perfectly. "First try. Show off," Jonah murmured. "I'm a woman of many talents." I could see the backyard from here. People milling around. Tables set up. Balloons in cream and sage green. A dessert table that looked professionally styled. A banner that said, "Oh baby," in that specific font that every baby shower seemed to use. "Ready?" Jonah asked. I looked at my triplets in the rearview mirror. Miles was making his action figure fight an invisible enemy. Asa was singing a song she'd made up about chickens. Judah was staring out the window like he was surveying his kingdom. They had no idea what they were about to walk into. No idea they were evidence. No idea their existence rewrote a 3-year-old lie. They were just kids. Happy, healthy, normal kids going to a party with their mom. And that was exactly the point. "Ready," I said. I got out first. Opened the back door. Unbuckled Miles. Across the street, I saw someone notice us. Point. Whisper to the person next to them. I unbuckled Asa. Then Judah. More heads turned. I reached into the trunk and pulled out the side-by-side stroller we used for long walks. Unfolded it. Locked it into place. The backyard had gone quieter. Not silent, but noticeably quieter. "Miles, Asa, Judah," I said calmly. "We're going to a party. There will be lots of people you don't know. Stay close to Mama or Daddy. Use your inside voices. And if anyone asks, yes, you're triplets, and yes, we're very tired." "I'm not tired," Judah announced. "King Judah is never tired," I corrected. Jonah grabbed the diaper bag. I grabbed my purse. The folder inside felt heavier than it should. We crossed the street. The gate to the backyard was open. Welcoming. An invitation within an invitation. I pushed the stroller through first. The conversations didn't stop, but they stuttered, paused mid-sentence. People turned. I scanned the crowd. Found Adrian immediately. He was standing by the grill, holding tongs, wearing the kind of casual button-down that cost more than it looked. His hair was thinner than I remembered. His face fuller. Success weight, probably. Next to him, Diana. Petite. Dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. Sun dress that emphasized her pregnant belly. Maybe 6 months along. Pretty in that effortless way that made people assume ease. Adrian saw me. His smile froze. His eyes dropped to the stroller. To the 3 kids inside it. To Jonah standing behind me with his hand on my back. The tongs slipped from his fingers and clattered on the deck. I smiled. Warm. Genuine. The smile of someone who had nothing to hide and nothing to prove. "Hi, Adrian," I said clearly, loudly enough to carry. "Thanks for inviting us. We brought a gift." Miles chose that moment to announce, "I have to go potty." Asa climbed out of the stroller, spotted the dessert table, and made a beeline. Judah stood up, surveyed the assembled guests like subjects awaiting orders, and declared, "I'm King Judah. Who wants to see my cape?" And just like that, the perfectly curated baby shower became something else entirely. Real. Chaotic. True. I walked forward, pushing the empty stroller like a shield made of truth. "You really thought I'd come empty-handed?" I said quietly, just for Adrian. Behind me, I heard Jonah intercept Asa before she could reorganize the macaron tower. In front of me, I watched Adrian's carefully constructed narrative begin to crumble. And I hadn't even opened the folder yet. The backyard went through stages of reaction. First, curiosity. Heads turning. Whispers starting. "Who are those kids? Are they hers? How many are there?" Second, recognition. The math being done in real time. 3 kids. Maybe 3 years old. Which means. Third, confusion. Because Adrian's story didn't include this. The story where Lynette was the broken one. The one who couldn't. The one who made him leave because the pressure was too much. I watched it ripple through the crowd like a stone dropped in still water. Diana was the first to approach. She had that kind of grace that comes from not yet knowing the full story. The innocence of someone who still believed in the narrative she'd been given. "Lynette," she said, hand resting on her belly. Protective already. "I'm Diana. It's so nice to finally meet you." Finally. Like we'd been trying to meet for years, instead of me deliberately avoiding the woman who'd helped end my marriage. "Diana," I said warmly, genuinely, because none of this was her fault. "Congratulations. How are you feeling?" "Oh, tired, hungry, emotional." She laughed. "But happy. So happy." "That's wonderful," I said. And I meant it. Whatever happened next, this woman deserved a healthy pregnancy and a healthy baby. And these are. She looked at the triplets with the expression of someone who'd been told one story and was now seeing evidence of another. "Miles, Asa, and Judah," I said, gesturing to each in turn. "They're 3. This is my husband, Jonah." Jonah shook Diana's hand. "Nice to meet you. Congratulations on the baby." 3, Diana repeated slowly. Then, with genuine warmth. "That must be incredible. And exhausting." "Both," I said. "Simultaneously. Constantly." She laughed. But her eyes kept darting back to Adrian, who hadn't moved from his spot by the grill, hadn't come over to greet us, hadn't said a word. Patricia appeared next, moving through the crowd with purpose. She was wearing white linen and pearl earrings, the uniform of women who'd learned to weaponize elegance. "Lynette," she said. "Not warm, not cold, carefully neutral." "What a surprise." "Is it?" I asked mildly. "Adrian invited me." "Yes, but..." She looked at the triplets. At Jonah. At the reality that didn't match whatever story she'd been told. "I didn't realize you had children." 3 of them, I said. "They're wonderful." "How old?" 3 years. "They'll be 4 in March." I watched her do the math. Watched her count backward. Watched her realize these children were conceived less than a year after my divorce from her son. "That's..." She paused, recalculating. "That's quite fast." "Biology doesn't wait for timelines," I said pleasantly. A woman I didn't recognize joined us. Mid-50s. Expensive highlights. The kind of smile that said she thrived on gossip. "Patricia, you didn't mention Adrian's ex-wife had triplets," she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "I didn't know," Patricia said tightly. "Spontaneous triplets," I added helpfully. "Natural conception. No fertility treatments. The doctors called it rare, but not impossible." The woman's eyes went wide. "No treatments at all?" "None," I said. "My husband and I weren't even trying. It just happened." I felt Jonah's hand on my back. Steady. Supportive. A reminder that I wasn't alone in this. "That's amazing," Diana said softly. "Adrian told me." She stopped herself. "Told you what?" I asked gently. She looked uncomfortable. "He said you 2 struggled with fertility. That it was really hard on both of you." "We did struggle," I said. "It was very hard." Relief crossed her face. Like I'd confirmed the story. Like the math didn't matter because the struggle was real. But I wasn't done. It was hard because we were never on the same page. I continued. I was going to doctors, getting tested, tracking everything. And Adrian. I looked directly at him now. He was still frozen by the grill. Adrian kept saying he'd schedule his appointments but never did. The backyard got quieter. Oh, I'm sure he was just busy, Patricia said quickly. His work schedule was insane back then. Too busy to attend 3 scheduled fertility appointments? I asked, all of which I'd arranged during his lunch hour? Diana's hand dropped from her belly. What? I have the records, I said calmly. If anyone's interested. Adrian finally moved. Finally spoke. Lynette, this isn't the time. Isn't it? I turned to face him fully. You invited me here for closure. You said so in your note. So let's have closure. Let's close the story you've been telling for 3 years. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, I said. Not angry. Just factual. You told everyone we couldn't get pregnant because of fertility issues. You let people assume those issues were mine. You let me believe those issues were mine. We both went through testing. I went through testing, I corrected. Complete workup. Blood tests, ultrasounds, HSG, everything. All normal. You scheduled 3 appointments with the fertility clinic's male factor specialist. You attended 0. That's not. I have the appointment records, I said. From the clinic. Showing the dates you scheduled and the dates you no-showed. Someone in the crowd gasped. Diana looked at Adrian. You said you got tested. You said everything was fine on your end. It was, Adrian said. There was a miscommunication with the clinic. There was no miscommunication, I said quietly. There was a letter from a urology clinic about an abnormal semen analysis, dated March 2019. The backyard went completely silent. March 2019, I repeated. 3 months after we got married. For months before you started telling me maybe I should try acupuncture for my egg quality. 8 months before you asked for space because the pressure was too much. Adrian's face had gone white. How do you? That was confidential. It got forwarded to me by mistake, I said. 6 months after our divorce. The insurance company sent it to our old address. I was still getting mail there. Diana took a step back from Adrian. You knew. You knew the whole time. It was one test, Adrian said. One abnormal result. It didn't mean anything. The doctor said it could be temporary, stress-related. Did you follow up? I asked. Did you go to the appointment they scheduled? He didn't answer. I'll take that as a no, I said. So you got one abnormal result, never followed up, never told me, and let me spend 2 years thinking my body was broken. I didn't. He looked around desperately. At his mother. At Diana. At the guests who were now staring at him with expressions ranging from confusion to disgust. I didn't let you think anything. You came to your own conclusions. Based on the information you gave me, I said, which was that your tests were fine and mine were the problem. Patricia stepped forward. Adrian, is this true? Mom, it's complicated. It's not complicated, I said. It's actually very simple. We couldn't get pregnant. I got tested. Everything was normal. He got tested once, got an abnormal result, hid it from me, skipped all follow-up appointments, and then told everyone the problem was me. That's not what happened, Adrian said, but his voice had lost its conviction. Then what did happen? Diana asked. Her voice was small. Scared. Tell me what happened. Adrian looked at her. At the woman carrying his child. The woman he'd left me for. The woman who'd believed his story about the broken ex-wife. He started. Stopped. Started again. The stress was real. The pressure was real. We were fighting all the time. Because you kept canceling appointments, I said. Because you kept traveling during my fertile windows. Because you kept making me feel like I was obsessed, and you were the reasonable one trying to hold us together. You were obsessed, he said, grasping at something familiar. Every conversation was about getting pregnant. Every day was tracked and scheduled and... Because you told me to track it, I said. You bought me the apps. You asked about my temperature. You were the one who made it scientific and then blamed me for being scientific about it. Jonah spoke up for the first time. Lynette, you don't have to. Yes, I do, I said. Not to Jonah. To everyone. Because this story has lived for 3 years unchallenged. And it's not true. And Diana deserves to know it's not true before she spends the next 18 years wondering why she feels like she's never enough. Diana was crying now. Silent tears running down her face. You said she couldn't let it go. You said she made you feel like a failure. You said. He said a lot of things, I interrupted gently. And some of them were probably true. I did want a baby. I did track everything. I did ask questions. But none of that changes the fact that he hid medical information from me. That he let me believe I was broken. That he left me for you before bothering to find out if the problem was actually his. There's no problem, Adrian said desperately. Diana's pregnant. Clearly, there's no problem. The ugliness of that statement hung in the air. Right, I said softly. Diana's pregnant, so I must have been the problem. Except I have 3 healthy children who were conceived naturally 18 months after our divorce. So what does that tell you? No one answered. It tells you that context matters, I continued. Stress matters. Partnership matters. Timing matters. But most of all, honesty matters. And there was no honesty in our marriage. I pulled the folder from my purse, set it on the nearest table. The dessert table, actually. Right next to a tower of macarons and a cake decorated with fondant baby booties. Everything's in here, I said. My medical records showing normal results. The appointment history showing Adrian's no-shows. The insurance letter about the abnormal test. I'm not here to ruin your shower, Diana. I'm here to correct a record. So you know what you're actually dealing with. So you can make informed choices. So you don't spend years thinking you're crazy when someone makes you question reality. Diana picked up the folder with shaking hands. Opened it. Started reading. Adrian reached for it. Diana, you don't need to. Don't, she said sharply. Don't tell me what I need. She read in silence. The entire backyard watched. No one moved. No one spoke. Asa chose that moment to appear at my side, hands sticky with frosting. Mama, can I have another cookie? The absurdity of it. This little girl asking for cookies while the adults dealt with the wreckage of lies. Made someone laugh. Nervous laughter, but laughter. I knelt down, wiped her hands with a napkin from my purse. 1 more. Then we're done with cookies for today. 2 more, she negotiated. 1.5, I counteroffered. Deal. She ran back to the dessert table. When I stood up, Diana was staring at me. The folder closed in her hands. How did you not hate him? She asked. I did, I said honestly. For a while. But then I realized hating him was just another way of letting him control my story. So I stopped. I built my own story. And it turns out my story has 3 kids and a husband who thinks communication is important and a life that feels honest. I don't know what to do with this, Diana whispered. That's okay, I said. You don't have to decide today. You just have to know the truth. What you do with it is up to you. Patricia had been silent through all of this. Now she spoke, her voice harder than I'd ever heard it. Adrian Michael Cole, she said. Full name. Never good. We need to talk. Inside. Now. Adrian looked at his mother. At Diana. At me. At the guests who'd come for cake and mimosas and gotten a lesson in consequences instead. This is ridiculous, he said. You're all acting like I committed some crime. So I didn't follow up on 1 test. So I was stressed and didn't handle things perfectly. That doesn't make me. It makes you a liar, Diana said quietly. You lied to me. You lied to her. You lied to everyone. I didn't lie. You let me believe I was special, Diana continued. That I was different. That I was the one who could give you what she couldn't. But really, you just never bothered to find out what the actual problem was. She set the folder back on the table. Walked past Adrian without looking at him. Walked past me with a nod that might have been thanks or might have been goodbye. She walked into the house. The party was over. People started gathering their things. Making excuses. Avoiding eye contact with Adrian, who stood alone by the grill looking like a man who'd just watched his life rewrite itself in real time. Patricia followed Diana inside. I started gathering my kids. Miles from the sandbox. Asa from her cookie station. Judah from his audience of what had been admirers and were now just confused adults. We're leaving, Judah asked. We're leaving, I confirmed. But I didn't get to show everyone my cape tricks. Next party, Jonah promised, scooping him up. Adrian called after me as we headed for the gate. Lynette, wait. I turned. He looked smaller somehow. Diminished. I'm sorry. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? I asked. For all of it. For not being honest. For letting you think, he swallowed hard. For not being who you needed me to be. I didn't need you to be anyone except honest, I said. That's all I ever needed. I know. Do you? I asked. Because Diana's in there right now feeling exactly how I felt 3 years ago. Questioning everything. Wondering what's real and what's story. And you could go in there right now and be honest with her. Actually honest. Or you could go in there and make it about stress and pressure and how everyone's overreacting. What do you think I should do? I almost laughed. I think you should stop asking other people how to be a decent person and just do it. I turned back toward the gate. Jonah had the kids loaded in the stroller. They were arguing about who got to hold the party favor bags we'd never actually received. Lynette, Adrian said one more time. I stopped but didn't turn around. You look happy, he said. I am happy. I'm glad. You deserve that. I looked back at him. Everyone deserves that. Even you. But you won't get it by building it on lies. I walked out of his backyard. Out of his story. Out of the narrative he'd constructed where I was the problem, and he was the victim. In the car, Jonah started the engine but didn't pull away yet. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. And I was. I feel light. Light. Like I just put down something heavy I've been carrying for 3 years. What was it? His version of me, I said. The broken one. The obsessed one. The one who wasn't enough. I just handed her back. Good, Jonah said. Because I like the version I married better. In the back seat, Miles announced that King Judah had stolen his party favor bag. Did not, Judah protested. Kings don't steal. They claim. That's literally the same thing, Asa observed. I laughed. Genuinely laughed. Because this was my life now. Sticky hands and cookie negotiations and philosophical debates about the ethics of monarchy conducted by 3-year-olds. This was what happened after the story Adrian told. This was the truth. I thought that would be the end of it. I'd told the truth. I'd corrected the record. I'd walked away clean. But truth doesn't end stories. It just rewrites them. 3 days after the shower, Jennifer called. Have you been on social media? She asked. No. Why? Adrian's going scorched earth, she said. He posted something on his personal page. About mental health and manipulation and, Lynette, you need to see this. I pulled up his profile. The post was public. Deliberately public. I've stayed silent for 3 years out of respect for my ex-wife's privacy. But after what happened at our baby shower this weekend, I feel compelled to speak my truth. Emotional manipulation takes many forms. Sometimes it looks like playing the victim. Sometimes it looks like weaponizing old pain to hurt new people. I won't go into details, but I will say this. My wife Diana and our unborn child deserve peace. They deserve to celebrate this blessing without attacks disguised as closure. I hope everyone struggling with toxic exes finds the strength to set boundaries and protect their peace. Thanks to everyone who has reached out with support during this difficult time. I read it twice. Then I set my phone down and laughed. Not happy laughter. The kind of laughter that comes when absurdity reaches a level where your brain can't process it any other way. He's calling you manipulative? Jennifer said. After you literally just proved he lied for 3 years? He's reframing, I said. Classic move. Acknowledge something happened but change the meaning. Now I'm not the woman who told the truth. I'm the crazy ex who attacked him at his baby shower. People aren't going to believe that. You had receipts. People believe what they want to believe, I said. And Adrian knows how to tell a story. The comments on his post proved it. So brave for sharing this. Toxic exes are the worst. Glad you're protecting your family. Some people can't handle seeing others happy. A few people pushed back. Asked questions. But Adrian had turned off commenting within an hour. 2 days later, Patricia called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Lynette, I think we need to talk, she said. No warmth. All business. About what? About the damage you've caused, she said. Diana moved out. She's staying with her sister. She won't talk to Adrian. She's threatening to call off the engagement. They're not engaged. They're married. She's threatening to file for separation, Patricia corrected. Before the baby is even born. And it's because of what you said. It's because of what Adrian did, I said calmly. You showed up at their baby shower with an agenda. You humiliated him in front of his friends and family. You deliberately tried to destroy his relationship. I showed up at their baby shower because he invited me. I brought evidence because he's been lying about me for 3 years. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped letting him build on a false foundation. You could have talked to him privately. You didn't have to make a scene. He made it public when he invited me, I said. He wanted me there as a prop. The sad, childless ex who proved he'd made the right choice. When I showed up not sad and not childless, the story fell apart. That's not my fault. You're ruining his life. He ruined his own life, I said. I just stopped participating in the cover-up. Diana's pregnant, Patricia said, and her voice finally cracked. She's 6 months pregnant and stressed and talking about raising this baby alone because she can't trust him. Do you know what stress does to a pregnancy? Do you care? That one landed. I do care, I said quietly, which is why she needed to know the truth before the baby came. Before she spent years wondering why nothing felt right. Before she blamed herself for his patterns. You don't know what his patterns are. You were married for 3 years. They've been together for 4. And how much of those 4 years was spent lying? I asked. How much was spent rewriting history? How much was spent making her feel special for not being me, when the difference wasn't her? It was just that he hadn't had to face his own issues yet. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you want me to say? That Adrian's perfect? He's not. No one is. But he's trying. He's building a life. He's going to be a father. And you couldn't let him have that. He can have that, I said. But he has to have it honestly. Not built on lies about me. Is this about revenge? Patricia asked. Because if it is, congratulations. You've destroyed his relationship and his reputation. You've won. This was never about winning, I said. It was about accuracy. I'm sorry Diana's hurt. I'm sorry you're hurt. But I'm not sorry I told the truth. Well, I hope your truth was worth it, Patricia said. Because my son is falling apart. She hung up. I sat with that phone call for an hour, turning it over, examining it from every angle. Was I responsible for Adrian's consequences? For Diana's pain? For the relationship fracturing under the weight of old lies? Jonah found me on the couch, staring at nothing. What happened? He asked. I told him. The post. The phone call. Patricia's accusations. She thinks I'm the problem, I finished. She's his mother, Jonah said. Of course she thinks that. What do you think? I paused. I think I told the truth. And the truth broke something that was already cracked. But now people are acting like I swung the hammer. Did you? Maybe, I admitted. I could have told him privately. I could have pulled him aside at the shower and given him a chance to come clean before I did it for him. Would he have? Probably not. Then you saved Diana from finding out 5 years from now. Or 10. Or never. But now she's pregnant and alone and... She's pregnant and informed, Jonah corrected gently. That's not the same as alone. And it's not your job to protect Adrian from his own choices. His mother thinks it is. His mother has been protecting him from consequences his whole life, Jonah said. That's why he thought he could lie for 3 years and never get caught. That's why he thought he could invite you to flaunt his new life and you'd just smile and nod. I leaned against him. I don't feel good about this. You're not supposed to, he said. Truth-telling isn't about feeling good. It's about being accurate. And sometimes accuracy is painful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Diana. About what it felt like to be 6 months pregnant and suddenly unsure of everything. About the stress Patricia had mentioned. About whether I'd helped or just made everything worse. At 2 a.m, I sent Diana a message on social media. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know. Whatever you decide about Adrian is your choice. Not mine. Not his mother's. Not anyone else's. I didn't tell you those things to push you in any direction. I told you because you deserve to know. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. I meant what I said at the shower. Motherhood is hard. If you need resources, support, or just someone who's been through it, I'm here. No judgment. No agenda. Just solidarity. Take care of yourself and that baby. Lynette. I hit send before I could second guess it. She read it within 5 minutes. The little scene notification popped up. She didn't respond. A week went by. The social media post got shared. Adrian's friends rallied. My name got dragged through comment sections I didn't even know existed. The crazy ex. The bitter woman. The one who couldn't move on. Jennifer wanted me to respond. Post your own story. Show the receipts publicly. Let people see what actually happened. No, I said. Why not? Because I didn't do this for an audience, I said. I did it for accuracy. For Diana. For me. I don't need strangers to validate my truth. But they're destroying your reputation. Among people who don't know me, I said. The people who matter. The people who actually know me. They know the truth. That's enough. But it didn't feel like enough. It felt like standing in a room where everyone was talking about a version of you that didn't exist and not being allowed to correct them. Miles asked why I was sad one morning at breakfast. "I'm not sad, baby," I said. "You look sad," he insisted. "Your eyes are sad. Kids see everything." "I'm just thinking about some grown-up stuff," I said. "What grown-up stuff?" "About being honest and whether people believe you when you're honest." He thought about this seriously. "Like when Judah says he didn't take my toy but I saw him take it." "Exactly like that," I said. "But you still believe me, right?" Miles asked. "Even if Judah says I'm wrong?" "I believe you," I confirmed. "Then that's all that matters," he said simply. "If the people who love you believe you, the other people don't matter." Out of the mouths of 3-year-olds. 2 weeks after the shower, Adrian's friend Marcus called me. The same Marcus who'd hosted the barbecue years ago. The one whose wife's pregnancy had made Adrian spiral about our own struggles. "Lynette, I don't know if I should be calling you," he said. "But I need to tell you something." "Okay." Adrian came over last night. He was drunk. Really drunk. And he started talking about the shower. "About what you said." And he admitted it, Marcus said. "All of it. The test results. The appointments he skipped. The lying. He said he panicked when the first test came back abnormal. Said he convinced himself it was a fluke, that it would resolve on its own. Said he couldn't face being the problem because his whole life he'd been told he was supposed to be perfect. I didn't say anything. He said he blamed you because it was easier than facing what might be wrong with him. And then when Diana got pregnant so fast, he thought it proved he'd been right all along. That it was never him." "What did you say?" I asked. I told him biology doesn't work that way. I told him he was an idiot. I told him he owed you an apology that actually meant something. "What did he say to that?" "He cried," Marcus said. "Like really cried. Said he didn't know how to fix it. Said Diana won't talk to him. Said his mother's disappointed. Said he's going to be a father, and he doesn't know how to be one when he can't even be honest." "That's not my problem to solve," I said quietly. "I know," Marcus said. "I'm not calling to ask you to fix it. I'm calling to say, you were right. About all of it. And I believe you. And I'm sorry I ever doubted it." "Thank you," I said. "For what it's worth, a bunch of us who were at the shower have been talking. We're done with the narrative he's been spinning. We know what happened. And we know you didn't do anything wrong." After we hung up, I felt something shift. Not vindication exactly. Just acknowledgement. The people who mattered were seeing clearly. But Adrian was still spiraling. 3 weeks after the shower, Patricia called again. "He's in therapy," she said without preamble. "Good. He's finally dealing with things. Really dealing with them." "Good," I said again. "He wants to apologize to you. Properly. Would you be willing to meet with him?" "No. Lynette. I don't need his apology," I said. "I needed his honesty 3 years ago. I need him to be honest with Diana now. I need him to be honest with himself. But I don't need him to apologize to me. That's for him, not for me. He's trying to make amends. Then he should make amends with the people he's actively hurting," I said. "Has he apologized to Diana? Has he been honest with her about why he lied? Has he taken actual responsibility instead of blaming stress or pressure or me?" Patricia was quiet. "That's what I thought," I said. "When he's ready to do that work, I hope he does it. But I'm not part of his healing process. I'm not his therapist or his priest or his rehabilitation project. I'm just someone who told the truth and moved on." "You seem very cold about this." "I seem boundaried," I corrected. "There's a difference. Diana messaged me that night. Thank you for your message. I'm sorry I didn't respond sooner. I've been trying to figure out what to do. I wanted you to know, I left him. Not because of you. Because once I saw the lies about you, I started seeing lies about other things too. Little things. Big things. Everything. And I can't raise a baby in that. I don't know what comes next. But I know I can't build a life with someone I don't trust. Thank you for telling me the truth, even when it was hard. I hope your triplets know how lucky they are to have a mom who values honesty. Take care. Diana." I read it 3 times. Then I responded. "You're going to be an amazing mother. Trust yourself. The rest will figure itself out." She hearted the message. And just like that, I was done. Done with Adrian's spiral. Done with Patricia's blame. Done with the story that kept trying to pull me back in. I had triplets who needed me. A husband who loved me. A business that was thriving. A life that felt honest and whole in mine. Everything else was just noise from a story I'd already finished writing. But the noise didn't stop. It just changed frequency. For months after the baby shower, I was in the grocery store when I saw her. Diana. Unmistakably Diana. 9 months pregnant now, moving slowly through the produce section with the careful gait of someone carrying a lot of weight in front. She was alone. I could have turned around, grabbed what I needed from a different aisle, avoided the whole interaction. Instead, I walked over. "Diana," I said quietly. She turned. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, uncertainty, something that might have been relief. "Lynette," she said. Hi. How are you feeling?" "Like I'm about to explode," she said with a tired smile. "Any day now. That's what the doctor keeps saying. That's exciting. And terrifying. Mostly terrifying," she admitted. Then, after a pause, "I'm doing it alone. In case you were wondering." "I wasn't wondering," I said gently. "But I'm proud of you." "Are you?" She looked at me with eyes that said she wasn't sure about anything anymore. Sometimes I think I made the worst decision of my life. Walking away from the father of my baby. Choosing to do this alone. Everyone says I'm being too harsh. That people make mistakes. That I should give him another chance. What do you think? I think. She set down the cantaloupe she'd been examining. I think I spent 4 years with someone who lied to me about fundamental things. And if he could lie about that, what else was he lying about? What else would he lie about in the future? What would he teach our child about honesty? Those are good questions, I said. But then I wake up at 3 in the morning and think, what if I'm being unreasonable? What if I'm throwing away a family because I can't forgive one mistake? What if my baby grows up asking why their parents aren't together, and I have to say it's because their father lied about medical records from a previous marriage? Do you trust him? I asked. No, she said immediately. Then quieter. I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. That's your answer, I said. If you have to think about it, if you have to convince yourself, if you're still not sure after 4 months, then you already know. Everyone acts like trust is something you just give back. Like forgiveness is a switch you flip. Trust is earned, I said. And it's earned slowly, through consistent honesty over time. Not through apologies or promises or therapy. Through actions. Has he earned it? She asked. In the 4 months since I left, has he done the work? I thought about what I'd heard. Through Jennifer, through Marcus, through the whisper network that exists in every community. Adrian had gone to therapy, had stopped drinking, had posted a public apology that acknowledged his role in both relationships' failures, had stopped blaming me on social media, had given Diana space while also showing up every week to the apartment where she was staying, leaving groceries and baby supplies and letters. I think he's trying, I said honestly. But trying isn't the same as succeeding. And you're the only one who can decide if his trying is enough. What would you do? Diana asked. If you were me? I'm not you, I said. My marriage with Adrian ended differently. I didn't have a baby on the way. I didn't have 4 years of history that included good times along with the lies. I had 2 years of fertility trauma and betrayal. Your situation is yours. But if you had to choose, I'd choose whatever let me sleep at night, I said. Whatever let me look at my child and feel peaceful about the example I was setting. Whatever felt honest, even if it was hard. She nodded slowly. I keep waiting for someone to tell me what to do. No one can tell you what to do with your life, I said. They can only tell you what they do with theirs. And even that's not always accurate. How did you know? She asked. When you left Adrian, how did you know it was the right choice? I didn't, I said. Not for sure. I just knew staying was killing something in me. Some part of me that knew my own worth. Some part that could still recognize truth. I left to save that part. Everything else, the business, the new relationship, the kids, that was just what happened after I made space for something honest. What if I make space and nothing fills it? Diana asked quietly. What if I leave and I'm just alone with a baby and regret? You might be, I said. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you that being alone with a baby and peace feels different than being partnered with a baby and doubt. I've watched friends do both. The ones who chose peace over partnership, they struggled, but they didn't lose themselves. The ones who chose partnership over peace, some of them made it work. Some of them spent years wondering who they'd become. Diana's hand moved to her belly. Protective. Automatic. He wants to be there for the birth, she said. He's been asking, saying he wants to be in the room, that he wants to meet his child, that he wants us to try family counseling. Do you want him there? She stopped. Started again. I want the version of him I thought existed. The one who was honest and steady and safe. But I don't know if that person is real or if I invented him. Then don't decide right now, I said. You don't have to make all the choices today. You can say yes to him being at the birth without saying yes to getting back together. You can say yes to counseling without saying yes to trust. You can take it one decision at a time. Is that what you did? No, I admitted. I made a clean break. But my situation was different. He'd already left me for someone else. There was no ambiguity. Your situation has more gray area, more complication, more possibility. More possibility, she repeated. Or more opportunity to get hurt again? Maybe both, I said. We stood there for a moment, two women in the produce section, connected by the same man's lies, but living in completely different chapters of the aftermath. Thank you, Diana said finally, for being honest with me. At the shower. And now, you could have just let me figure it out on my own. I thought about it, I said. But then I thought about how much time I wasted believing I was the problem. And I didn't want that for you. Even though she paused. Even though I was part of why your marriage ended. You weren't part of why my marriage ended, I said. Adrian's choices ended my marriage. You were just there when he made them. That's different. I'm not sure I would have been this generous, Diana said. If I were you. I'm not being generous, I said. I'm being accurate. And accurate isn't the same as kind. It's just true. She smiled. Tired but real. I hope your kids know how lucky they are. They mostly know I'm the one who enforces bedtime and won't let them eat cookies for breakfast, I said. But maybe they'll figure out the rest eventually. We said goodbye. She went back to examining cantaloupes. I went to get milk and eggs and the other mundane things that fill up a life with 3 kids. But as I walked away, I felt something settle. I'd made the right choice. At the shower. In the aftermath. In maintaining boundaries while still offering truth. Not because everything worked out perfectly. Not because Adrian was redeemed or Diana was happy or the story had a neat ending. But because I'd told the truth and let people make their own choices with accurate information. That was all I could control. And it was enough. 3 weeks later, Jennifer forwarded me a message. Thought you'd want to know. Diana had the baby. Girl. 7 pounds, 5 ounces. Healthy. Adrian was there for the birth. Diana's still not back with him, but she's letting him be involved. They're doing co-parenting counseling. Sounds complicated but functional. I felt oddly peaceful reading it. A baby girl. Healthy. Parents who were trying to figure it out honestly instead of building on lies. That was good enough. I sent Diana a gift. Nothing big. A care package with the things no one tells you that you need postpartum. Good nipple cream, extra absorbent pads, dry shampoo, chocolate that doesn't require refrigeration, a water bottle that holds a gallon. I included a note. Congratulations on your daughter. The first month is survival. The second month is when you start feeling human again. Be gentle with yourself. You're doing harder work than anyone tells you. If you need anything, I'm here. No strings. Just solidarity and motherhood. Lynette. She texted me a week later. Thank you for the care package. You were right about the nipple cream. And the chocolate. And everything. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. But also the best. I'm glad I have accurate information about what I'm building with Adrian. We're trying. Slowly. Honestly. It might not work. But at least if it doesn't, I'll know why. Thank you for that gift. D. I showed Jonah the message. You gave her agency, he said. That's a good gift. I gave her facts, I corrected. She gave herself agency. Semantics, he said, kissing my forehead. You did a good thing. I did an honest thing, I said. That's different. But maybe it wasn't that different after all. 6 months after the baby shower, I got an email from Adrian. The subject line just said, accountability. I almost deleted it. But curiosity won. Lynette, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if I have the right to ask you to. But my therapist suggested I write it anyway, even if you never respond. I lied to you. For 2 years of our marriage, I lied by omission. I got test results that scared me, and instead of dealing with them, I hid them. I let you believe you were broken. I let you carry shame that was never yours to carry. I blamed you for my own fear of inadequacy. When Diana got pregnant so quickly, I convinced myself it proved I'd been right all along. That the problem had never been me. That you were just incompatible with my biology, or stress, or whatever excuse made me feel better about my choices. What you did at the baby shower, showing up with 3 kids who proved the problem was never you. It destroyed the story I'd been telling myself. The story where I was the victim of a difficult marriage instead of the architect of an impossible situation. I've been in therapy for 6 months. I've done the work of understanding why I lied, why I avoided, why I blamed. I've tracked it back to childhood patterns, to how I was raised to believe that being perfect was more important than being honest, to how my mother protected me from consequences so thoroughly that I never learned accountability. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know that the work happened, that I see what I did, that I understand the damage. Diana and I are in co-parenting counseling. We're not together. We might not ever be together, but we're building something honest for our daughter. And that honesty is only possible because you refuse to let me keep building on lies. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know. You were right. About all of it. And I'm sorry. Not the performative kind of sorry that asks for something back. The kind of sorry that sits with what I did and doesn't try to minimize it. I hope you and your family are thriving. From what I've heard through mutual friends, you are. You deserve that. You always did. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Adrian. I read it twice. Then I showed it to Jonah. What do you think? He asked after reading. I think it's real, I said. I think he actually did the work. Are you going to respond? I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks my silence says everything that needs saying. What does the first part want to say? I thought about it. That I accept his accountability. That I'm glad he's building something honest with Diana and their daughter. That I hope he continues the work. That I'm not carrying anger anymore, just distance. That sounds like something worth saying. Or it sounds like reopening a door I worked hard to close. Doors can open without you walking through them, Jonah said. You can acknowledge his growth without re-engaging with him. I sat with that for a day. Then I wrote back. Adrian, I appreciate your email and your accountability. It sounds like you've done important work. I'm glad you and Diana are building something honest for your daughter. That matters. I don't carry anger about what happened between us anymore. I've built a life I love, and that life exists because of choices I made after our marriage ended. In that sense, your failures became part of my foundation. I'm grateful for where I am, even if I'm not grateful for how I got here. I hope you continue the therapy. I hope you model honesty for your daughter. I hope you build something real with Diana if that's what you both want, or build a functional co-parenting relationship if that's what works better. But I also want to be clear. This is closure for me. I'm glad you're healing, but I'm not part of that healing process. I'm just someone in your past who told you the truth when you needed to hear it. Take care of yourself and your family. Lynette. I hit send before I could second-guess it. He responded within an hour. Thank you. That's more grace than I deserved. I won't contact you again. Be well. And that was it. The story was finally over. Not with drama. Not with reconciliation. Not with any of the endings that movies promise. Just with 2 people acknowledging what happened, taking accountability for their parts, and moving forward into separate lives. It was the most honest ending we'd ever had. A year after the baby shower, I got an unexpected invitation. Not from Adrian. From Diana. I'm having a small birthday party for my daughter's first birthday. I know this might seem strange, but I'd like you to be there. You were part of the reason I had the courage to build something honest for her, and I'd like you to meet her. No pressure. I understand if this is too weird, but the invitation is genuine. Diana. I stared at the message for a full minute. Jonah looked over my shoulder. That's unexpected. That's an understatement. Are you going to go? I don't know. Is it weird? It feels weird. It's unconventional, Jonah said. But so was showing up to your ex-husband's baby shower with triplets and receipts. You don't really do conventional. This is different. This is her child. Adrian's child. And she's inviting you because you gave her something valuable. Truth. Agency. Support when she needed it. That's not weird. That's gratitude. What if Adrian's there? Then you say hello and move on, Jonah said. You've already done the hard work. This is just showing up to celebrate a kid's birthday. I thought about it for 2 days. Then I responded. I'd be honored to come. Thank you for thinking of me. What is she like? I want to bring an appropriate gift. Diana wrote back within an hour. Books. She loves books. Destroys them, mostly, but loves them. And thank you. It means a lot. The party was at a community center near Diana's apartment. Small. Maybe 20 people. Family, a few friends, some other parents from a mom group Diana had mentioned joining. And Adrian. I saw him before he saw me. He was sitting on the floor with his daughter, helping her stack blocks that she immediately knocked down with gleeful destruction. He looked different, softer around the edges, more present, less polished. He looked like a father. When he finally saw me walk in, he froze for just a second. Then he nodded. A simple acknowledgement. No drama. No tension. Just, I see you, you see me, we're both here for the same reason. I nodded back. Diana appeared at my elbow. You came. Thank you. Of course. Happy birthday to your daughter. What's her name? Maya, Diana said. Her name is Maya. Beautiful name. It means water in Hebrew, illusion in Sanskrit. And all I could think when I was choosing it was that I wanted her to have a name that meant something true, even if the meaning was complicated. That's perfect, I said. She introduced me to her sister, her parents, some friends from work. No one made it weird. No one asked why I was there. I was just another guest at a child's birthday party. Jonah and the Triplets had stayed home. This felt like something I needed to do alone. A closing of a circle that had started 3 years ago in a different backyard at a different party. I watched Adrian with his daughter. He was attentive, patient. When she threw her sippy cup for the 4th time, he picked it up without frustration. When she started to fuss, he knew exactly how to soothe her. He'd learned. Or maybe he'd always had this in him, and just needed the right circumstances to let it show. Halfway through the party, he approached me. Lynette, he said. Thanks for coming. Diana invited me. I'm glad she did. Me too, he said. I'm glad she felt comfortable inviting you. That she has you as someone she can trust. She's a good mom, I said. Maya's lucky. She is, he agreed. Diana's amazing. I'm lucky to be allowed to be part of it. Even if we're not together. Are you? Together? No, he said. We tried for a few months. But the trust wasn't there. Maybe it will be someday. Maybe it won't. Right now we're co-parenting. And that's working. That's mature, I said. It's honest, he corrected. Which is different. But I'm learning the difference. We stood there for a moment. 2 people who'd shared a marriage and a disaster and a hard journey to separate lives. I really am sorry, he said. I know I said it in the email. But I wanted to say it in person. For everything. I know, I said. And I really have moved on. This isn't. I gestured around the room. This isn't painful for me. It's just life. Good, he said. That's good. You deserve that. Maya toddled over at that moment, arms up, demanding to be held. Adrian scooped her up automatically. She grabbed his face with sticky hands and babbled something that might have been words or might have been sounds. She's beautiful, I said. She is, Adrian agreed. She's the best thing I've ever done. Which is ironic, considering I spent years thinking a kid would complete me or fix me or prove something about me. Turns out, she just made me want to be better. For her. That's what kids do, I said. If you let them. Diana called everyone over for cake. The kind of chaos that only a 1-year-old's birthday can create. Singing and sticky frosting, and a very confused child who wasn't sure if she should eat the cake or wear it. I stayed for the whole thing. Helped clean up after. Hugged Diana goodbye. Thank you for coming, she said. I know it was probably weird. It wasn't weird, I said. It was full circle. What do you mean? A year ago, I went to a baby shower and told the truth about my past. Today, I came to a birthday party and saw what happened after that truth. You're building something good. Maya's lucky to have you. She's lucky to have you too, Diana said. In whatever way you're comfortable being part of her life. As a friend. As someone who helped her mom find courage. However it fits. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. I drove home feeling lighter than I'd felt in years. Not because of reconciliation. Not because everything was perfect. But because the story had evolved past the hurt into something functional and real. Jonah was waiting when I got home. The triplets were asleep. The house was quiet. How was it? He asked. Good, I said. Really good. Strange but good. Strange how? Strange like, I watched Adrian be a good father. I watched Diana build a life that works for her. I watched a 1-year-old eat cake and not care about any of the history that brought her parents together. It was strange because none of it was about me anymore. It was just life happening after the crisis. That's healthy, Jonah said. It's closure, I said. Real closure. Not the kind Adrian tried to script at the baby shower. The kind that comes from watching everyone move forward honestly. Are you going to stay in touch with Diana? Maybe, I said. In a limited way. Birthday parties. The occasional coffee. The kind of relationship you have with someone you helped, but aren't actually close to. We're not going to be best friends. But we're not enemies either. We're just two women who survived the same man's lies and built different lives afterward. That's a good ending, Jonah said. It's not an ending, I corrected. It's just the next chapter. And I'm not the main character in it anymore. I'm just someone who showed up in Act 2, told the truth, and then went back to my own story. That night, lying in bed, I thought about everything that had happened since that invitation arrived a year ago. The shower, the revelation, the fallout, the boundaries, the accountability, the birthday party. All of it had been necessary. All of it had been honest. None of it had been easy. But it had been right. Not because everyone ended up happy. Diana and Adrian weren't together. Patricia still probably thought I was the villain. Some of Adrian's friends still believed his original narrative. But the people who mattered knew the truth. Diana knew. Adrian knew. Marcus knew. Jennifer knew. Most importantly, I knew. And that knowledge had set us all free. Free to build honest lives. Free to make informed choices. Free to parent children without building on lies. That was worth the discomfort. Worth the social media attacks. Worth being called bitter and manipulative and unable to move on. Because I had moved on. Just not into silence. I'd moved on into truth. And truth, it turned out, was a solid foundation for everything that came after. 3 months after Maya's birthday party, I got another message from Diana. Adrian and I are trying again. Not because everything's fixed, but because we've built enough trust through co-parenting that we want to see if we can build more. We're going slowly, honestly, with couples counseling and clear boundaries and a commitment to truth above comfort. I wanted you to know, because you're part of why this is even possible. You showed me what honesty looks like, what boundaries look like, what self-respect looks like. Thank you for that. I hope your family is thriving. Diana. I showed Jonah. How do you feel about that? He asked. I paused, checking in with myself. Genuinely happy for them. If it works, great. If it doesn't, they'll both survive because they're building on truth this time. Either way, it's not my story anymore. That's growth, Jonah said. That's relief, I corrected. But maybe they were the same thing. 6 months after that message, I ran into Patricia at a fundraiser for the hospital where Jonah worked. She saw me before I saw her. I watched her face go through a calculation, avoid or engage. She chose engage. Lynette, she said, approaching with a glass of wine and what looked like genuine uncertainty. I didn't know you'd be here. Jonah's on staff, I said. Hospital fundraisers are part of the deal. Right. Of course. She paused. How are you? I'm good. You? Good. Busy. Maya keeps us all busy. She smiled. She's walking now, terrorizing everything in reach. That's wonderful, I said. And it was. I wanted to. Patricia stopped. Started again. I owe you an apology. For what I said after the shower. About you ruining Adrian's life. About you being manipulative. I was wrong. I hadn't expected that. I was protecting my son, she continued. The way I always have. But I wasn't protecting him from you. I was protecting him from consequences. And that's not actually protection. It's enabling. Thank you for saying that, I said. I'm working on it, Patricia said. In therapy, actually. Learning to let Adrian face his own mistakes instead of cushioning them. Learning to trust that he can survive disappointment without me intervening. That's hard work, I said. It is, she agreed. But I'm watching him be a good father to Maya. And I realize he's better when he has to be accountable. When he doesn't have me running interference. You showed me that. At the shower. When you refused to let him hide behind my protection. I wasn't trying to show you anything, I said. I was just trying to tell the truth. I know, Patricia said. But sometimes truth teaches lessons we didn't know we needed. So thank you. And I'm sorry. I appreciate that, I said. We talked for a few more minutes. About Maya. About Diana's master's program. About Adrian's new position at work that let him have more flexibility for parenting. It was civil, almost warm. The kind of conversation you have when the war is over and everyone's rebuilding. When she walked away, Jonah appeared with champagne. I saw that, he said. Patricia apologizing. Did hell freeze over? People change, I said. When they're ready. When they do the work. You change them, Jonah said, by refusing to accept the lie. I didn't change anyone, I said. I just stopped participating in dishonesty. They changed themselves. Semantics, he said, kissing my temple. Accuracy, I corrected. But I was smiling. 2 years after the baby shower, Diana sent me a photo. Adrian and her. Actually together. Actually happy. In front of a Christmas tree with Maya, who was now almost 3 and looked like a perfect combination of both of them. The message said, 2 years of couples counseling, individual therapy, and brutal honesty later, we made it. We're not perfect, but we're real. And that's better. Maya's getting a sibling next summer. On purpose this time. With full medical workups for both of us and 0 secrets. Thank you for being the person who demanded truth when it would have been easier to stay quiet. You saved more than my relationship. You saved my ability to trust myself. Merry Christmas. Diana, Adrian, and Maya. I read it 3 times. Then I showed it to my triplets, who were now 6 and had no idea who these people were. Who's that? Miles asked. Some people I used to know, I said. They're building something good. Why are you crying, Mama? Asa asked. I'm not crying. My eyes are just happy. That's the same thing, Judah observed. Kids see everything. I wrote back. Congratulations on the baby and on building something real. That's the hardest work and the best work. Merry Christmas to you all. That night, Jonah found me on the couch, staring at the photo. You okay? He asked. I'm thinking about how strange life is, I said. 2 years ago, I walked into a backyard and destroyed a man's narrative. And now he's sending me Christmas cards and having another baby and actually building something honest. You didn't destroy his narrative, Jonah said. You corrected it. There's a difference. Is there? Destruction leaves rubble. Correction leaves foundation. He built on the foundation you forced him to acknowledge. I didn't force anything. You forced honesty, Jonah interrupted gently. When everyone was comfortable with lies. That's not a small thing. It didn't feel revolutionary, I said. It just felt necessary. The most revolutionary things usually do, he said. I leaned against him. Outside, I could hear the triplets playing in the yard, fighting over a ball, negotiating rules, learning to share space and take turns and tell the truth about who pushed whom. This was my life now. Sticky fingers and homework battles and children who asked hard questions and deserved honest answers. This was what happened after you stopped building on lies. This was what happened when you chose accuracy over comfort. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always pretty. But it was always real. And real, I'd learned, was worth everything. Waiting for your approval before continuing to Act 9, the final act. 3 years after the baby shower, I sat in my office and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I looked back at the folder. The one with the medical records. The appointment histories. The insurance letter. All the receipts I'd carried to that backyard 3 years ago. I'd kept it. Not because I needed it anymore, but because it represented something important. Proof that I hadn't imagined the gaslighting. Evidence that my version of events was accurate. But looking at it now, it felt like something from a different lifetime. The woman who'd assembled this folder, meticulous, hurt, carrying years of blame she didn't deserve. She felt like a stranger. Someone I used to be. Someone I'd outgrown. I closed the folder for the last time. Then I fed it through the shredder in my office. Page by page. Medical records. Appointment logs. The insurance letter that had changed everything. I watched it all turn into confetti. Jonah found me standing there, staring at the shredder bin full of paper strips. What was that? He asked. The past, I said. I don't need to carry it anymore. You sure? Completely sure. Everyone who needed to see it saw it. Everyone who needed to know the truth knows it. The only person still holding on to it was me. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. How does it feel? Light, I said. Really, really light. The business had grown exponentially. What started as a one-woman consulting firm now had 12 employees and clients across 3 states. I'd been featured in 2 industry magazines and been asked to speak at a conference about operational systems and sustainable growth. I was building something that mattered. Something that was mine. something that had nothing to do with proving anything to anyone, and everything to do with creating value. The triplets were thriving. Miles was reading at a second-grade level in kindergarten. Asa had declared she wanted to be a paleontologist and had memorized every dinosaur name in existence. Judah had started soccer and played with the intensity of someone trying to win a World Cup. They were loud and chaotic and perfect, and they had no idea they'd once been evidence. To them, they were just kids living their lives, which was exactly as it should be. Jonah had been promoted to chief of pediatric anesthesiology. He came home most nights with stories about tiny patients and their families, about fear transformed into relief, about moments that mattered. We'd bought a house. Nothing fancy. Just enough space for 3 kids who needed room to grow and 2 adults who needed a place to breathe. Our life was ordinary in the best possible way. Homework battles and grocery lists and trying to remember which kid had soccer practice and which had music lessons. Date nights that usually ended with both of us falling asleep on the couch. Family dinners where everyone talked at once and no one finished their vegetables. It was everything I'd wanted and nothing like what I'd planned. One Saturday morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Diana. Just wanted to update you. Adrian and I are expecting another girl. Maya's thrilled to be a big sister. We're good. Really good. Still in therapy, still working on it, but building something real. I hope you're well. Diana. I responded. Congratulations. That's wonderful news. We're great here too. Chaos and joy in equal measure. Wishing you all the best. She sent back a heart emoji. That was the extent of our relationship now. Occasional updates. Brief but genuine. The kind of connection you maintain with someone who is important in your story, but isn't central to your daily life. It was healthy. It was appropriate. It was enough. I didn't hear from Adrian directly anymore. And that was fine. We'd said what needed saying. The rest was his journey to walk without me as a witness. But through Diana's updates and occasional mentions from mutual friends, I knew he was doing the work. Showing up for his kids. Being honest with Diana. Building a life that was based on truth instead of image. That was his happy ending. And I was genuinely glad for it. But it wasn't my story anymore. My story was happening here. In this house. With these people. In this life I'd built from the rubble of a marriage that tried to make me small. One evening, Miles asked me a question while I was making dinner. Mama, were you married before Daddy? I paused mid-chop. The triplets were 6 now. Old enough to understand complexity. Old enough to hear truth. I was, I said. To someone else. Before I met your daddy. What happened? Asa asked, suddenly interested. We weren't right for each other, I said carefully. We wanted different things. And we couldn't figure out how to want the same things together. Did you have kids with him? Judah asked. No, but I have you 3. And that's perfect. Why didn't you have kids with him? Miles pressed. Jonah appeared in the doorway, sensing the conversation happening. He gave me a look that said, Your call. I thought about how to answer. How much truth was appropriate for 6-year-olds. We tried, I said honestly, but it didn't work out. Sometimes things don't work out with one person, and then they work out perfectly with someone else. That's what happened with me and your daddy. So we were meant to be, Asa said decisively. Exactly, I said. You were meant to be. All 3 of us? Judah asked. All 3 of you. At exactly the same time. The best surprise I ever got. Were you surprised? Miles asked. Very surprised. The doctor said I was having 3 babies, and I almost fell off the table. They giggled. The conversation moved on to what was for dinner and whether dinosaurs would have eaten tacos. But later that night, after they were asleep, Jonah found me in the kitchen. You handled that well, he said. Did I? I wasn't sure how much to say. You said exactly enough. The truth, age appropriate. They know they weren't a secret or a mistake. They know they were wanted. That's what matters. I never want them to feel like they're evidence of anything, I said. They're just them. They exist because biology and timing and luck aligned. Not because I needed to prove something. They know that, Jonah said. Because you live it. You don't use them for vindication. You just love them. It's easier to just love them, I said. Vindication is exhausting. Love is just natural. That's growth, he said. That's peace, I corrected. We stood there in the kitchen, listening to the house settle around us. The dishwasher humming. The clock ticking. The ordinary sounds of a life built on truth. This was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not dramatic, just real. A year later, I was invited to speak at a women's business conference. The topic was about building sustainable businesses after major life transitions. I almost said no. I didn't love public speaking, and I wasn't sure I wanted to share my story with a room full of strangers. But the organizer was persistent. Your story is exactly what women need to hear. About rebuilding. About finding your worth after someone tried to define it for you. About creating success on your own terms. So I said yes. The conference was in a hotel ballroom. 200 women. All ages. All backgrounds. All there because they were building something or rebuilding something or trying to figure out what to build next. I stood at the podium with my notes and my water bottle and my nervous hands. My name is Lynette Williams, I started. And 7 years ago, I was in a marriage that tried to convince me I was broken. I told them the story. Not all of it. Not the intimate details. But the framework. The gaslighting. The blame. The divorce. The rebuilding. I told them about starting a business from nothing. About going to therapy. About learning to take up space again. About meeting someone who valued honesty over image. And I told them about the baby shower. I showed up with 3 kids and a folder of medical records, I said. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to hurt anyone. But because I needed to correct a record. I needed people to know that the story they'd been told about me wasn't accurate. I needed my ex-husband's new wife to have accurate information before she built a life on lies. The room was completely silent. It was messy, I continued. It was uncomfortable. People got hurt. Relationships fractured. But you know what else happened? Truth created space for real growth. My ex-husband got therapy. His wife made informed choices. They're building something honest now. And I got to stop carrying a story that was never mine to carry. I looked out at the audience. At women nodding. At women taking notes. At women with tears in their eyes. Here's what I want you to know, I said. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's narrative. Your success isn't measured by someone else's definition. Your life doesn't have to make sense to anyone except you. And when someone tries to make you small, when they try to convince you that you're the problem, you have the right to take up space. You have the right to tell your truth. You have the right to build something that's actually yours. The applause started before I finished the sentence. Afterward, women lined up to talk to me, to share their stories, to thank me for saying what they needed to hear. One woman, maybe mid-30s, waited until the end of the line. I'm in the middle of a divorce, she said. My husband says I'm too focused on work, too ambitious, too hard to live with. And I started believing him. But hearing you, I realized I'm not too anything. I'm just married to someone who needs me to be less so he can feel like more. You're exactly enough, I told her. Just as you are. She cried. I hugged her, and I remembered being her. Being the woman who wasn't sure if she was the problem or if the situation was the problem. I was grateful I wasn't her anymore. On the drive home, I called Jennifer. How did it go? She asked. Good. Really good. Terrifying but good. Did you tell the baby shower story? I did. People loved it. Or related to it. Or both. Because it's a good story, Jennifer said. Villain gets exposed. Hero gets vindication. Everyone learns and grows. It's not that simple, I said. There was no villain. Just people making bad choices and eventually making better ones. Still a good story, Jennifer insisted. It's a true story, I corrected. That's better than good. When I got home, the house was chaos. The triplets were having a dance party in the living room. Jonah was attempting to make dinner, while also refereeing a dispute about whose turn it was to pick the music. How was it? He called over the noise. Perfect, I said. But this is better. He grinned. Dance party dinner? This is definitely better. I joined them. Miles grabbed my hand. Asa spun in circles. Judah showed me his new move, which was mostly jumping. This was my life now. This chaos. This joy. This realness. And somewhere across town, Adrian and Diana were probably having their own version of this. Their own chaos. Their own joy. Their own realness built on the foundation of truth I'd forced them to acknowledge. I was happy for them. Genuinely happy. But I was happier for me. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. You can't build anything lasting on lies. Not marriages. Not businesses. Not lives. Not worth. Truth is the only foundation that holds. Everything else is just decoration. 5 years after the baby shower, I got one final message from Diana. I know we don't talk much anymore, but I wanted you to know, Adrian and I are renewing our vows. 5 years of honest marriage. We're doing it small, just family, but I wanted to tell you. You were the catalyst for everything good in my life. For my ability to demand honesty. For my courage to leave when I needed to and come back when it was right. For my children having a father who knows how to be accountable. Thank you will never be enough, but thank you. I hope you're thriving. I hope your kids know how lucky they are. I hope you know that you changed lives by refusing to accept lies. With gratitude always, Diana. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. I'm so happy for you both. Renewing vows is beautiful. It means you chose each other again consciously, with full information. That's the best kind of love. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for doing the hard work. Thank you for showing your kids what honest partnership looks like. We're all thriving here. Loud and messy and real and thriving. Congratulations on your anniversary and on building something that lasts. All my best, Lynette. I showed Jonah the message. How does that feel? He asked. Complete, I said. Like the story actually ended well for everyone. Even Adrian? Especially Adrian. He became who he needed to be. Just not with me. And you became who you needed to be, Jonah said. Strong enough to demand truth even when it was uncomfortable. Confident enough to walk away when the situation was wrong. Brave enough to build something new. I just stopped accepting lies, I said. That's not a small thing, Jonah said. That's everything. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I thought about the woman I'd been at 28. The one who'd met Adrian at a leadership breakfast. The one who'd believed love meant compromise and partnership meant making yourself smaller. I wished I could tell her what I knew now. That her worth wasn't negotiable. That her voice mattered. That she didn't need to shrink to fit someone else's vision. But she'd had to learn it herself. Through pain and betrayal and the hard work of rebuilding. Through therapy and divorce and the terrifying act of starting over. Through meeting someone who valued truth and building a family that existed because biology cooperated when pressure didn't. She'd become me, and I was proud of her. The triplets were 8 now. Miles was reading everything he could find. Asa was still obsessed with dinosaurs and had added space to her list of interests. Judah had started piano and played with the same intensity he brought to soccer. They were becoming people. Real people with opinions and interests and personalities that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with who they were choosing to be. I watched them grow and thought about all the ways I was teaching them truth. Not through speeches or lectures, just through living it. When they asked hard questions, I gave honest answers. When they made mistakes, I acknowledged them without shame. When they succeeded, I celebrated without making it about me. I was teaching them that truth was safe, that honesty was valuable, that their worth wasn't tied to anyone else's approval. I was teaching them everything I'd had to learn the hard way. And maybe that was the real ending of this story. Not the baby shower. Not the revelations. Not even the rebuilding. The real ending was this: breaking cycles. Choosing different. Building better. The real ending was 3 kids who would grow up knowing their worth. Who would never let anyone convince them they were broken. Who would demand honesty because they'd seen what dishonesty cost. The real ending was me in my kitchen, making dinner while chaos erupted around me. Feeling completely at peace with the life I'd built from the rubble of the one that tried to destroy me. The real ending was knowing that the best revenge isn't spectacle. It's continuity. It's love that lasts long enough to be ordinary. It's truth lived so consistently that it becomes foundation instead of weapon. It's waking up every day in a life that feels honest and choosing it again. That's the ending. And it's perfect. If you're listening to this story and recognizing yourself in it, if you're the one being told you're too much or not enough, if you're the one carrying blame for something that might not be yours to carry, if you're the one making yourself small hoping someone will finally see you, I want you to know something. You're not broken. The situation might be broken. The relationship might be broken. The dynamic might be broken. But you're not broken. And you have the right to tell your truth. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when people get hurt. Even when it disrupts narratives that other people have found convenient. Your truth matters. Your voice matters. Your worth is not up for negotiation. I'm Lynette Williams. This was my story, and I'm grateful I lived to tell it. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you've lived your own version of this story, I see you. If you're still in the middle of yours, you're going to make it through. Truth is hard, but lies are harder. Choose truth, even when it costs you, especially when it costs you, because on the other side of that truth is a life that's actually yours. And that life is worth everything. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, you're not alone. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories like this. Leave a comment telling me your truth. And share this with anyone who needs permission to take up space. You're not too much. You're exactly enough. And your story deserves to be told honestly.